Yo, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to Vic Drives. And today we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. I've had a lot of people ask me to start reviewing cars, and given the current situation, I can't exactly go out and find cars to review, so I'm just gonna review my cars. So this is my 2015 Honda Civic, and we're going to review it today. But obviously I've never done this before, so I'm going to probably list a few of the categories that I will be talking about in the video and kind of just follow that as we go to try to keep me on track and not make this like a 3-hour long video. Alright, let's get right into it. Now obviously this is the 2-door coupe version, as there's only one door on this side, which means there's only one on the other side. But for every one of these cars that Honda sold, they actually sold 50 of the 4-door sedans, which isn't too surprising because, you know, the 4 doors are probably more practical than this one is. But the interesting fact there is that both of them, whether you get the 2-door or the 4-door, are based on the same platform. So the only difference is the body on top, which is an interesting design choice, but also makes for some weird quirks, if you will. The first of which is that the doors are huge. They're like 1.5 times the size of a normal car door, which means they open super wide and kind of just get in the way of everything. And then you get to the looks, and it's not a bad looking car. Like, from certain angles it looks okay. Probably would look nicer if it was clean. But let me walk around. I'm gonna go behind the camera and then kind of walk you guys through a few things. Alright, so one of the first things I learned about this car was that you need to look at it from a certain angle to actually like it. So from this angle right here, it looks decent, but then as we move a little bit closer to the front, it looks less decent. It's not to say that it's a bad looking car or that I don't really like the way that it looks, but I don't really like the way that it looks. We'll start here at the headlights. Now, they look fine from afar, but as you get closer to them, you realize that they kind of just bulge out of the side of the car, which, if you ask me, really doesn't make any sense, but their design choice, I guess. And then you come down to the dreaded fake vents. I don't know why you couldn't just put holes here and have them go nowhere, but that was their choice. And so some models actually came with an option for a fog light here, but this one's not equipped with it. And then they actually have real vents down there and up there, but then they cover them with this plastic piece, which I don't think you can get rid of. But that's the front. And then you do have daytime running lights. So if you unlock the car here, there you go, daytime running lights. These are always on, although you can turn them off, but I'll cover that when we get inside. Moving to the side profile here, it looks decent, and here you can kind of tell how big that door is. It's like half the size of the car, but the rest of the car is pretty much the same size as a regular car. And then you have the wheels. The wheels are 16s on the standard vehicle, I believe. If you do upgrade to the SI, I believe you get 20s or 19s, I think, on summer tires. And then as we move back to the back of the car, this is probably my favorite angle of the car, just because I think it actually looks somewhat symmetric and nice. But so as you can see, there's no fake exhaust holes or anything like you saw in a lot of the vehicles from this era. The exhaust is actually down there. Hello there. But I think the rest of the car looks pretty clean. If you did get a wing, it would just be on the trunk here, like kind of come up and here, and then this brake light, this third brake light, would be on that, as opposed to inside the car like it is on a lot of other cars. And that's the exterior walk around. Alright, and now as we walk into the vehicle does have keyless entry, so you could press the buttons on the key fob, or you could stick this in your pocket and then walk up to the car and then hand behind the handle to unlock, click the button to lock, and you get a nice little beep notification every time. And so now as we step into the vehicle, you can see it's soft touch plastic everywhere. You get a little bit of this cloth lining. There are a lot of different trim levels. This one in particular is the EX, which means that it comes with cloth seats. And you know, everything else is pretty standard, I think, between all the other cars. The only one that you get leather in is the EXL, which I think was about $4,000 or $5,000 more than this one was, and I wasn't looking to spend that much on a car. And once you do get into the car, probably one of the first things you'll notice is that this is just a tachometer right in there, and you have another screen up here which actually houses your speedometer. So you got this nice little dual level thing going, which is, I think, only a Honda thing, and I actually believe they got rid of that for the latest models here. But it is push button start. The steering wheel is super small. I'll try to get a side by side with my gaming wheel just to show you guys. But you do have infotainment up here, climate controls down here. We do get an HDMI port. I don't entirely know what we're intended to do with that, but that's there. You have a USB for charging, power outlet, standard 12 volt in there, and these nice little flaps to keep everything nice and clean. And then we have a fair amount of storage in here.
Here comes a spark straight to the man! The man! The legend!
USB port down there. The glove box has a decent amount of storage in it. Obviously, that's just all maintenance papers and whatnot. And then we do have another little storage compartment right there. So this is how you get into the back. There is a little button down here if you're in the back of the car and you need to get out, or if you're trying to get into the back, then you just pull this lever here and it moves the seat forward and pulls it down, and then it's as simple as stepping in like this. Now obviously chats like this probably aren't that great, but let me show you how much leg room we have in here, and then we can continue on with the video. Now, I'm not super tall. I'm about 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. And I don't know, I mean, I have a decent amount of space here. It's my entire fist on both sides. And like, you can put my head out, or my feet out rather. Decent amount of headroom. I don't know, it's a pretty comfortable place to be. You do have cup holders back here. A little slot for your phone if you want to put something there. Now, like I said earlier, there is a little button here, so you push this with your foot, and the seat just launches forward. Obviously, don't do that if you have someone sitting in front of you.
Ejectocito, cut!
Alright, and now let's talk infotainment. So, as I said in last week's video, if you haven't watched it, again, I'll link it up in the top there. Honda has an interesting way of going about doing their infotainment systems. They always try something a little bit different, and they either nail it or they don't. It's really a hit or a miss. And for this one, I feel like they're leaning more towards the miss side. So, as you can see, there's no volume knob. You have this little slider here, which kind of works and kind of doesn't, and it's really strange to use. Honda got a lot of feedback about that. I don't know if you caught it, but there is a few other buttons down here that kind of show up. And so like if I went into audio, let's say, now you have the home button, volume, menu, back. Home obviously takes you back, and you can probably tell there's a little bit of lag in between when I click something and when it opens up. Obviously, you can't expect these systems to be as fast as a smartphone, but I feel like a little quicker than that is probably warranted. Obviously, you do have steering wheel controls, volume up, volume down, skip forward, skip back. And now an interesting feature is when you hit the source button here, you'd think it would change down there, which it does. It changes all the way at the top when you click it. But it also changes in this little screen up here, which is super neat. And now getting into the sound system, it's decent. It's only a 5-speaker. There's one right there, one over there, and then 3 in the back behind the passengers. Probably can't see that on camera here. As for sound itself, the bass in my car is actually bumped up all the way to the max, and you can take a listen probably. So I mean, you can tell that there's a bass there, but you can't actually feel it like you can in most other vehicles. So it kind of lets me down there, but it's not a deal breaker. It's fine for most people that are not self-declared audiophiles like myself. So I could show you around in the menus a little bit more. You do have a trip computer, which shows you how many miles to the gallon you're doing, what your range is. Obviously, you can see that in this mini screen up here as well, along with your mileage, time, temperature, and all that other good stuff. And getting into the last portion of our video here, the performance check of the vehicle, if you will. Now, obviously, it's not a performance car, so we're not going to do 0 to 60 times and stuff like that. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to do a couple 0 to 30 runs and a couple 0 to 45 runs, and pretty much all we're going to do is we're going to switch between the different drive modes. So there's a normal drive setting, and then there's a sport setting, and then we have paddle shifters, which may or may not do anything. So the idea being that I'm going to do a 0 to 30 in drive, no paddles, and then switch to paddles, and then 0 to 30 sport, and then with paddles. And then we'll do the same for the 45. And then I'll take you guys out for a spin, just around the area, I guess, and we can talk about a few of the other features, and then we'll end the video. All right, here's the first 0 to 30 run. This is in drive, no paddle shifters. The eco mode is on. I don't really know if that makes a difference. I can turn it off. So eco mode is off, drive, no paddle shifters, left foot on the brake, right foot on the gas, and go. And that's 30, go. And going, that's first. And go.
What is going on? What are you doing?
All right, so I don't know if there was any real difference in the times there. Obviously, the timestamps will probably clear that up for us. The only real difference between drive and sport mode, as far as I can tell, is that in drive, your RPMs are always trying to stay at a lower speed. Now, this is a CVT, which means that there's no, you know, like first gear, second gear, third gear, so on and so forth. It's really all just changing all the time to try to keep your revs as low as possible to pretty much mean that you're getting better fuel economy. Now, when you put it in a sport mode, the revs will jump up a little bit, And the point of this being that if you need the power, it will be available to you. So if you're driving on the highway and you need to overtake somebody, it'll be harder for the car to get from, say, like 1500 RPM to 4500 RPM as opposed to 2500 RPM to 4500 RPM. As far as I can tell, that's really it. And now I can tell you guys a little bit more about the car as we drive around. And for those of you that are wondering, we were doing 8.2 miles to the gallon while I was doing those runs earlier. All right, let's get going. So now, obviously, something like the Mercedes is probably the norm now, if you will, because crossovers are all the craze. But I wanted something that, you know, even if it wasn't super sporty, because I was looking for something that would do 30 to 35 miles to the gallon. This will do like 40. The idea behind getting it was that it would be something that I could commute to college with, and it pretty much served its purpose. But one of the main issues that I found was that traction in most situations just isn't sufficient. And by that I mean it's pretty much it's only a front-wheel drive car. Obviously the Mercedes is an all-wheel drive, and the issue with that being that I have a full-time all-wheel drive system in my actual full-time car, and when I switch over to this from that, I am now at a significant decrease in weight of the vehicle, as well as 2 powered wheels. And what that pretty much translates to is that when I'm driving in the rain or in the snow, I now have that much less comfort while driving. Not to mention, I don't know if it's the weight of the car or if it's the actual system that they have, the traction control system, but it's not exactly comfortable. It's not exactly ideal for me to be driving this in the winter, only because I have a better option. That's not to say that you can't drive this in the winter. It's more that I'm just more comfortable in my other vehicle. And the reason for that being, so I drove this car to Michigan from Massachusetts in the middle of the winter with pretty much no issues. I was a little concerned when I was crossing through Buffalo and there was a snowstorm going on. I kind of just had to pull over because I definitely was not comfortable driving at highway speeds with this system. This car just did not feel stable for me. But there are people that drive this in the winter all the time and have no issues with it. So, you know, maybe that's just my opinion, but it's my channel, so I feel like I should share my opinion. I also have some traction issues in the rain. Just if I'm at a stop sign and then I hit the throttle, sometimes it spins its wheels before I can actually grip and take off. And so I thought that was tires at first, but I got the tires replaced about 5,000 miles ago, and it's still there. The issue still persists. So, you know, maybe that's something to look into for Honda, or maybe they fix that with the next generation. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll go from there. But probably the most redeeming characteristic of this car is the fuel economy. Now, driving around on local roads at 35 or 40 miles an hour, we're getting close to about 45 miles to the gallon, which is super impressive considering that even on the highway, the Mercedes only gets like 21 or 22 on a good day. And so that is something that is huge. Alright, so I just filled up the memory card and I don't know when the camera stopped recording.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
So obviously you can probably tell that my voice sounds a little bit different, and that's because I've switched to my phone, and I actually think this might be better quality than the camera is. So let me know if that's true. Guys, this was my first time doing a car review, so it might have been a little bit awkward. If I forgot some things, or if it seemed like I could have talked more about one thing or talked less about something else, definitely let me know down in the comment section. Any feedback is appreciated. If you enjoyed the video, then definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.